Bodies play sports, not identities. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. And today we're going to talk about the Olympic women's boxing scandal. It's kind of upsetting, and so I'm going to just be straightforward here and get right to the point because there's just so much, I think, misinformation being put out there. I spent days on this. So I actually waited to do this because I really wanted to have my facts and not my feelings around this particular subject, because I think that that's the thing that's going to help us all understand what's really going on here. And as you know, I'm a huge champion for women's rights and women's sports. I think that being said, I'm not here to tell people who can and cannot play. What I am here to say is that sports is about fairness and categories matter. And I think the Olympic Committee is being super disingenuous. And I think that they are at fault. The IOC is at fault for everything that's happening now. So with that, I want to first start off with this one particular thing I found from the International Boxing Association. And I think it's the way that we can sort of get to the facts first, and then we can talk about these other sort of videos that I found. I'm not going to be able to show any of the actual boxing videos because of copyright issues. So you all, I'm sure, know and can find those boxing videos if you like. So with that, I'll maybe put a couple pictures here while I'm talking right now, and that you can see that, because I think the pictures will be fine, but the video won't hold up for copyright infringement. That being said, here we go. And I want you to read this particular thing. And this is from the actual International Boxing Association. Okay. The International Boxing Association, the IBA, has clarified the facts that led to the disqualification of two boxers, Imane Khelif of Algeria and Lin Yu-ting of Chinese Taipei. Now, those are the two boxers that have been tested. There's a lot here, and I'm not going to read it all, but what I will do is put a link so that you can read it yourself. But I want to pick out the specific points to talk about because I think these are the most important parts. Imane Khelif has been participating in the IBA competitions since 2018, and Lin Yu-ting has competed since 2017. Current IBA management has been in leadership since 2020 and has been on top of the problem from the very first IBA Women's World Boxing Championships. IBA cannot comment on the previous iterations and back of leadership actions in this regard. Okay, so they had gotten some complaints regarding these two boxers, and with those complaints, they decided that they needed to do some testing. Following many complaints from several coaches, boxers agreed to gender testing. Blood sample collection was made on 17th of May, 2022. System Tip Laboratory from Istanbul, and they put the license number, issued its report on the 24th of May, 2022. After the competition ended, the laboratory detected results that didn't match the eligibility criteria for IBA women's events. That basically means the chromosomes didn't match. You have to be XX, which equals female, and what came up was not XX, okay? So then it goes on to say, one test from each athlete was not enough to make a decision with respective consequences. In the case that one test mistake is possible, the lawyers advised to monitor the situation. And they said this is new to boxing and the IBA. At the next IBA Women's World Boxing Championships in 2023 in New Delhi, Khelif and Lin were tested following their consent. Okay, they consented to it again before their first fights. Blood sample collection was made on March 17th, 2023. Dr. Lal Path Labs from New Delhi issued its report on the 23rd of March 23. The findings were absolutely identical to the last results. Then it goes on to say, okay, on March 24th, the IBA Secretary General and CEO, George, informed both Khelif and Lin about their exclusion from the championships for not meeting eligibility criteria. The athletes received a copy of their testing and were informed about the possibility of appealing. So they had 21 days to appeal these test results, which did not match the chromosomes of females. Okay. Khelif and Lin were informed accordingly about the decisions and acknowledged it by signing the papers. The test details were attached to the letter. I'm going to actually put that up here too, so you can see they actually acknowledged the letters and they signed them. Okay. So that's an acknowledgement of it. On March 26, 2023, the IBA Board of Directors, by majority vote, decided to ratify the decision taken by the IBA Secretary General and CEO on behalf of the IBA to disqualify Imane Khelif and Lin Yu-ting from the IBA Women's World Championships. There you go. It goes on to say that both of them had the right to appeal, and Lin Yu-ting did appeal, and then Imane Khelif appealed, but then Imane Khelif withdrew that appeal. Okay. This right here just says everything to me. Okay. These are they were clearly tested. I don't know why everybody's acting like they weren't tested. They can't show you the testing for privacy reasons. Okay. But the letters were attached to this thing that said that they have been disqualified because they did not meet criteria. Read between the lines, people. It doesn't take, they can't say it exactly, but they're telling you that they were disqualified because they did not pass the testing. The testing is a genetic testing, which is chromosomes. I don't even know what to say. Okay, I'm going to put a link to this because that's very important. Here's the next thing that I found. Okay, so this is a video from Redux. They're always so great, and I'll put this up there, but let's watch this a little bit because this is actually really important. There's some. So this is the International Boxing Association holding a press conference in Paris to address the issues surrounding Algerian boxer Imane Khelif and Taiwanese boxer Lin Yu-ting. Okay, so this is the head of the IBA.
There was a number of concerns from boxers, coaches, indeed the medical team, medical staff, the ringside doctors, regarding these two boxers in particular. Blood tests were taken, a gender test was taken as it was during the Women's World Championships in 2022 in Istanbul. At that point, I'm just going to highlight here, so on the 17th of May 2022, the the blood tests were taken by a lab known as System Tip Laboratory in Istanbul. We can give the license numbers out so you'll be aware of that, and the results from there were issued on the 24th of May. Okay. The tests were taken, and the results, I'm going to discuss this shortly, the results that were brought out were inconsistent. So, further to which, there's been a number of questions as to why, but we came about to the next female championships was taken.
So there you go. They took tests. They gave the test to them. I'm going to move forward now. I wanted you to see the beginning of that video. Okay, this is at the press conference in Paris. Okay, so now I'm going to move forward.
Both boxers entered the championships, and at which point, on the 17th of March 2023, both boxers were asked to take a further blood test. That happened, and on the 23rd of March, the results came through, and it demonstrated the chromosomes that we refer to within the technical and competition rules that make both boxers ineligible. And that was then further ratified by the BOD, our Board of Directors. It was taken there to remove both boxers from the championships. That was on the 26th of March 2023. We had a letter that Mr. Yarolimpos had put forward to the board, and with this.
So right there, again, he's saying it, that those tests that were taken created a space where these two boxers, both of these are the two boxers that were tested. Doesn't take a brain surgeon to figure it out. They signed the papers that showed that they acknowledged the testing, and it showed that they failed the chromosome test. I'm like, I don't know why everybody's complaining about that. I don't care how you identify these. You know, I understand that they have DSD. I get it. We all get it. But that still doesn't make it fair for them to compete in female sports. They are not biologically female. They identify as females. They were raised as females, but they are not females. I identify as male, but I am not male. I am an actual female. It's not that hard to be honest. Also, I don't know why these boxers aren't being honest. I mean, I have my theory on it, but I don't want to get into that part. But it's just actually it's interesting to me that they don't want to be honest about who they are. So that's what's causing all this controversy, as well as the IOC and the IBA do not see eye to eye. And the IOC does not acknowledge the IBA. And there's now this controversy. I'm not, that they're Russian and they're this and they're that. And like, what? Now you're making everything crazier, okay? I don't understand why you can't work with the International Boxing Association, IOC. And the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, has changed its whole platform on how they acknowledge categories. And now categories in the IOC are based on some kind of crazy thing called gender identity. So whatever your passport says is where you get to compete. What? That is actually insane. So this next video is from this guy Andrew Gold, who I love. I've been on his podcast, and he does a great show here on YouTube, and I'll put a link to this video. He interviewed Dr. Imane Khelif, and she's a developmental biologist. She's amazing, and she's part of this organization called Sex Matters, and I'm connected to her, and I really think that their work is amazing. And so she says some really amazing things. So let me bring up those right now.
With different rules on eligibility for the female category. So the IBA, the International Boxing Association, says that their categories are based on chromosomes. The male category is XY, the female category is XX, and that they've tested these athletes. There was a press conference just today where they said, we can't tell you the results. There are privacy and medical confidentiality issues there. We can't tell you the results. The athlete's not eligible for the female XX category. You need to read between the lines. So that's very directly, albeit in a slightly roundabout way, saying that these athletes are XY. Now, what the IOC's position seems to be is that they don't support the concept of sex testing at all. So they're not dealing with the results that the IBA say they've given to the IOC. What they're saying is, you shouldn't have tested them.
Wow.
So they're refusing to acknowledge that the testing process is valid, let alone what the results of that testing process are. Their eligibility for boxing is based on legal documents. And they've mentioned what's on your passport. And what we know, and I'm not remotely suggesting that's happened actually with these athletes, but what we know is that many countries now, when they're trying to deal with, cohorts of people who have gender identities that...
See, that's insane. Now they become a rights-based organization. They're not a fact-based or biology or chromosomal-based organization. Now it's basically what's on your passport. I'm going to say this again to everybody. My passport says male. Okay? It doesn't say female. I am a biological female. See how easy that is? So it's easy for them to change their passport now these days. You can just do that. But I understand they were assigned female at birth because they do have DSD, okay? Assigned means that they had ambiguous genitalia, so they didn't know, so they just assigned them, and they looked more female at birth. They didn't look male. Okay, this video is great. I'm going to put a link. You're going to learn so much about biology and the DSD and all of that. Clearly, I can't put it all there. But right there, that goes to show you. They're not going to look at the testing from the IBA because it doesn't go along with their rights-based space now, okay? Because they don't actually acknowledge chromosomes anymore. I mean, I'm just shocked, and it doesn't make any sense to me. So let's move on to this piece.
We're talking about transgender athletes, and we're talking about athletes with differences of sex development. So they're two separate cohorts, but they are kind of co-regulated together. And according to the IOC, that should be based on their gender identity. It should account for, in the case of certainly the transgender community of athletes, but perhaps some of these athletes with DSDs who are modulating their hormones, how that changes how we think about their categorization. That's the IOC position. It's very much a rights framework. Our paper was very strongly of the opinion that they are ignoring an evidence base, and that they are, that their framework just really isn't scientific. I'm not clear that they want to have a scientific framework. They want to be rights-led. They want non-discrimination based on gender identity. That's something separate from my point of view. We're talking about sports. We're talking about bodies. It doesn't matter what someone's gender identity is. It doesn't matter what political party they vote for. It doesn't matter what religion they are. In fact, sport is something that's always been pitched as bringing together this, amazing diversity of people, and starting to ignore those, geopolitical boundaries that have, separate us in our non-sports life.
I mean, she just says it so eloquently and so beautifully. She just said it, basically summed it all up right there. They don't want to acknowledge chromosomes. They don't want to acknowledge biology. They want to acknowledge this new rights-based, let's let everybody come in. Sports is not a human right. She says that as well, which is a great point. It's not a human right. Sports has to have boundaries, and it has to have categories, and it has to have weight limits, and it has to have all of these things in order for it to be a fair playing field. That's where the word sportsmanship comes from. And if we don't have these things, the IOC has been captured. Okay. I believe now the Olympics are just a joke on some level. They've been captured. It's not part of the way it's always been. I understand people now are identifying differently. We have non-binary, we have all these things. Then you're going to have to make different spaces for these people. Just because you are DSD or have intersex conditions or trans or all of these things, it doesn't mean that you get everything you want. And sometimes the world isn't fair. And I think we're not putting that message out there. And I think it's actually hurting people like myself, as well as people who are born with DSD. It's not making them live in a reality-based space. And so I think Dr. Emma, she makes just such great points. I couldn't even think of a better video to use for this. These are not trans women, by the way. These are male, chromosomal males identified as females who refuse to acknowledge that and are fighting. We're not talking about chess here. We're talking about a very violent sport, and they're competing against biological females, and they have a chromosomal advantage. That's what we all need to acknowledge here. Nobody cares how they identify. And that has become this part that people don't seem to be able to disconnect from. Disconnect from that, everybody. This is a violent sport, and we need to have extreme fairness when it comes to that. Somebody's going to get really, really hurt, or somebody's going to get offed. And then what? Is that really what you want from this? Can we please bring back sanity to women's sports? Please, everybody. Please understand how important this is. Not only to me, it is, but to the women and the girls out there who need their space. We've opened up Pandora's box, or I could say this is a slippery slope. And that is the scariest part, because if we don't acknowledge this, I don't know what could be next. Okay. So let's just get back to some sense of reality here and get back to the Olympics and stop playing these games, because now it's become a political, okay? It's become a political space, which it just should never be that. It should be about all these athletes who have trained their butts off to get to these spaces to be able to compete in fairness. Thanks for watching. I always appreciate you guys so much. I hope that I did a good job with this. It really is a very disturbing thing to discuss, and I hope that you understand what I'm saying. And if you want to push back in the comments, please do. Comment, subscribe. It really helps this channel a lot. Like this video, get it out there. I really do appreciate it. I can't do this work without you. So thank you so much. Sending you all love. Have a beautiful, awesome day.